Hello, faithful listeners. My name's Clay Thompson, and I'll be your guide once again in the Fiction Room. Today's prompt is brought to us from username Equal Odds. Two warriors engage in battle, one with the power to move superhumanly fast, and the other with the ability to slow down time. They're both a little confused when it seems like their powers don't seem to be working. As always, I hope you enjoy listening to these stories as much as I enjoy reading them. But without further ado, let us begin with our first story, written by Zubarim. And stop right there, the man said, snapping open his pocket watch. Reality snapped and bucked at his control, but after a few lethargic jerks, he stepped out of time. He stepped forward lazily and walked through the crowd in front of him, approaching the tower in the distance. Lightning crackled less like a force of nature and more as a languid constant. A long line of fire piercing the sky. He wasn't here for the ordeal. He was here for something else. What the heck is going on? Kronos paused, flicking his eyes down to his watch, then back towards one of the heroes he had left behind. Their eyes met, and Kronos blinked, slipping the chain around his watch to keep it from closing. The hero said, and Kronos cocked his head to the side, squinting at him. How are you moving? How are you moving? The hero hissed. Not that sound traveled quick enough for him to hear. Kronos could read lips, and the hero slammed himself forward. A strange blur effect, Kronos noted. A bit of heft to his eyes. A glow hidden underneath the surface. A power to counteract his. A problem. Kronos had never cared for problems, and problems rarely bothered him for long. But this one might be different. The hero raced to his side. It was awkward seeing someone that fast kept in the slow time, but Kronos nimbly stepped to the side as he ran by at a more human speed. The hero slid to an awkward halt a few meters down the line, and then braced himself. Time rippled under the strain of the watch being open, and Kronos ignored it. He'd already slipped to the world between worlds where he drew power from, and their whispers couldn't claim him. Can't let you get near that facility, the hero said, looking at the watch. Unknown capabilities, but suicidal zealotry. Kronos hated career heroes. Then I'm afraid I'm going to have to remove you. I need access to that secure room. The hero cracked his knuckles and slammed his feet against the ground. A cloud of dust that would have been less pretty if it didn't unfurl in that strange place in between time, where seconds melted into minutes. It didn't stop Kronos from taking the first blow to the face, when the speedster abruptly sped up even faster. The second one caught him across the chest, his suit distorting with a splash of black from the speedster's painted armor. The third caught him across the knees, and the fourth didn't matter, because his reaction time kicked in. His hands clenched around his watch, and reality screeched under the power of it, and time slammed shut into a deeper, cooler time where entropy crawled to a halt, which just barely let him dodge the second blow, then slam his free hand into the speedster's gut. Then up with the elbow into his chin, spin around the next blow, and drive the heel of his boot into the speedster's spine. The watch buckled once under the strain, and time slid to a normal speed, slipping out of his control, and the speedster went flying, head over heels, his speed warring against the aberrations done to physics, limbs locked together. The other heroes scattered around, confused, trying to figure out exactly where the strange man had gone, and then stared at the speedster. Kronos grinned at them, waving jauntily, then frowned. The watchman brought a hand to his face and tasted blood. His watch hand clenched, and time stilled again. He spat on the ground as bullets whizzed by him, rattling out of guns in slow motion, like pretty pebbles thrown through jelly. A blink, less than a heartbeat, and Kronos stared at the fist as it whirred closer to his head than he had ever seen it. A killing move at that speed. Heroes could kill if they wanted to. Kronos smiled down against the hero and clenched down on his mechanism. The watch face cracked. The hands stopped in place, with only the urgent ticking of the gears inside to tell him that it was still working. Too hard on this model. He'd have to try and figure out how to overcome the limitations of the design. The beautiful equations written across the fabric of space in the hall without meaning. He'd get another one. He always would. The hero's eyes went wide, or rather started the muscular contractions to make them go wide. Even speed faltered against the power of a stopped clock. Now, it was time to take care of his problems, so he wouldn't have anyone chasing after him. He reached into his coat. The speedster deserved a more personal touch. Kronos drew his pistol, put it against the hero's head, and pulled the trigger. The chemical reaction played out on a scale of minutes instead of instants, but he was nothing but patient, listening to the slow tick of the watch thrashing about against strained gears in his hand. He wrenched it away when the bullet just started to dig into flesh, a strange paradox of speed against the background of stillness. He spun the gun in his hand, wiped it off with a cloth, and examined it for damage. Nothing. Impeccable as always. Then he turned away, not wanting to see the first moment of fear starting to trickle across the hero's face. It wasn't good to think about those things for long. It'd be 15 minutes by his own time before the bullet would splatter against his skull. Enough time to get to where he needed to go. Enough time to order flowers for a funeral. Very nicely done. This is actually a scenario that I've always wanted to see in any comic with a speedster, though I'm not sure that it's happened yet. But still, definitely feels like it's ripped directly from a comic book. And now let's move on to our second story, written by Drunken Swordsman.
The battlefield was a dangerous place for most demons. The angels fighting in the Celestial War were armed with silver swords and arrows of sunlight, instant death for any creature of Satan. In the conflict for dominion over Earth, thousands of Hell's soldiers had fallen to these weapons. But this did not bother Mihirut. He was not some rank-and-file abyssal, sent to the front line with no hope of return. He was the swift demon. The Morning Star had given him unrivaled speed, the ability to move so fast that the world seemed to slow to a crawl around him. The angels could fire arrows. They could cut at his blurred outline with their terrible sabers. Mihirut strode through the battlefield as if it were a garden, and everywhere he went, celestial beings fell to the earth, bleeding golden ichor from 1,000 wounds inflicted faster than they could blink or cry in pain. The battle was going well. The angels had initially tried to push forward, forming a battle line across the fiery sky, but soon they were flooded by a crawling, boiling flood of condemned souls. Slowly, inch by inch, they were beaten back, until the retreat was sounded. A single unit guarded the fleeing forces, a condemned last stand, a wall of blooded shields and bitter spears. In the middle of the phalanx, Mihirut spotted a familiar face. Flowing white hair, one eye, a blade with golden edges. Gabriel! Mihirut roared in exertion, forcing himself to even greater speeds. His wings of black smoke carried him upwards toward the Archangel, jagged blade raised and ready for the lethal strike. Gabriel might be a fearsome warrior, but he could not defend an attack he never saw coming. The Morning Star would reward him well. Something crashed into Mihirut's back, sending him careening through the sky. He crashed downwards, desperately beating the air with his wings to arrest his downwards momentum. He looked around, looking for the attacker. Everything practically stopped around him as he focused, searching. Behind him! Only blind luck saved him. He flipped to the side, narrowly avoiding a cut which would have parted his head from his body. A quick beat of black wings gave him a safe distance. He regarded this new foe in amazement. It was an angel, no doubt, but one he had never seen before. His wings were not the usual white-gray of the celestial soldiers, nor the gold and silver of the Archangel commanders. They were translucent and azure, shading the world beyond them with a bluish haze. Litanies and incantations glowed within them, engraved into the arcane mass. His handsome face was confused and troubled. "What are you, foul aberration?" the Celestial cried.
My power over time is absolute, yet you move as if unaffected.
I am Mihirut, the speed demon, and I could say the same thing. Who are you, angel?
Mihirut, I know who you are. He swung his blade in a hissing arc, cutting an arrow moving sluggishly by in half. I am Azakil, the Angel of Time. My powers were given by the Lord himself.
And I was gifted mine by the Morning Star, in person,
Mihirut responded.
Poetic almost, that you will die at my blade.
Azakil smiled grimly. There was no fear in his gaze. Truly, this is the will of the One. The Speed Demon and the Angel of Time will meet upon the battlefield. Let us see who truly dominates the fourth dimension. The Lord or the Morning Star? He charged forwards, reality buckling under his wings. Mihirut beat the air and met him upon the blooded sky. There was no escaping this battle. None could ever tell what happened, even as the millions of teeming angels and demons looked upon the black-blue flash which split the skies for a second, and then was gone. Can you say ripped straight out of a video game? Because, wow, straight out of a video game. It's worth noting that the author says that this was only his second story, and the potential in this is amazing. So very well done, sir or ma'am. And now, dear listeners, we must unfortunately bid you farewell once again. Thank you all so much for tuning into The Fiction Room. If you enjoyed today's stories, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It would very much help us. And wherever you are in the world right now, be safe, be well, and we'll see all of you next time.